Hello and welcome to Fantastic History. I'm Clay.
I'm Sarah.
We're a husband and wife duo who enjoy telling each other about amazing events, people, and mysteries throughout history. Sarah, World War II. It's got some strange stories.
Sure, yeah.
We've discussed a few of them, mostly involving animals.
Well, those are the best stories, yeah.
Yeah. Today's story is not about animals fighting in World War II, which is a little different from what we're used to, but it is about a different type of soldier.
Okay.
A special regiment called the Ghost Army.
Oh my God.
Have you ever heard of this before?
No, but I'm 100% in.
Now, I'm going to cut you off now.
No.
Before you go all Zag Baggins.
No.
This was not a literal ghost army.
Okay.
Although I'm quite certain that Germany at least had a few people working on summoning a ghost army. That seems like something that they would be all into.
They were super occulty.
Exactly, yeah. But no, the term ghost army was a nickname for the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, and they were mobilized on January 20th, 1944. Now, their goal was not to fight or to sabotage, like behind enemy lines.
It was to haunt.
It was to haunt, to curse.
Just to frighten everyone.
It was the first Allied haunted house. No, their goal was to confuse and deceive.
Okay.
Because they were the first tactical deception unit in U.S. history.
Whoa.
So here's the thing to sort of set all this up. Deception was super important in World War II. The stakes were so high and the battlefield so large that anything which could throw the enemy off, no matter like if for a few hours, days, months, could save thousands of lives. And it could be super advantageous to plans to do something sneaky. So, for example, I'm sure a lot of you listening will be familiar with American Indian code talkers.
Sure.
Who played a key role in keeping Allied radio transmission secured. When messages were intercepted, and they were all the time, the enemy couldn't understand or decode them because it wasn't a code. It was a Native American language being spoken.
Yeah.
They were speaking the native languages.
Right.
Which is totally cool. There was also double agents that fed fake information to Nazi Germany. And the one that I really enjoyed reading about was about Juan Garcia. So he was born in Barcelona, Spain, and had become really irked by all the fascism and extremism that was engulfing Europe.
Irked is a way to phrase it. Like, since we're currently like experiencing some light fascism ourselves, irked is fair.
He saw
fair
that,
to say.
Yeah, he saw that Mussolini and Hitler guy, and he said, "Man, what a real jerk."
Yeah. Ew. How annoying.
So he wanted to become a spy for Britain.
Okay.
Because Spain was kind of neutral, not really involved too much.
Okay.
So he wanted to go to Britain to like be on their side to help them fight the Nazis, and he thought he would be a good spy. But Britain denied his request. No matter, he was going to do it anyway. It's crazy. He created a false identity, and this false identity was pro-Nazi, and he was able to become a German agent.
Whoa.
And he was told to go to Britain to recruit agents. But instead, he moved to Lisbon and just made up a bunch of stuff. Just made up names, intel, just bullshit.
Love that.
And fed it to the Germans. And the crazy thing is they believed him. He began inventing agents who worked beneath him in case he needed to lay blame to someone else for feeding them false information.
It's amazing.
And the Germans were paying him.
That's insane. Were they also paying all of the fake employees?
I don't know, maybe.
That would be really incredible.
But he was earning income from Nazi Germany, and he was faking everything.
Amazing.
And after a while, the British took him on as a double agent after realizing that he had become super trustworthy by the Germans. And they were able to utilize him, and he played a key role in Operation Fortitude, which we're going to talk about that next. But the absolutely craziest thing about this story is that he was so damn convincing that he earned 2 military decorations, becoming a member of the Order of the British Empire,
Great.
which was a great award, and being awarded the Nazi Iron Cross.
Oh, bother.
He was awarded by both countries being a double agent.
That is really awkward.
Is that just... That's a good double agent.
I mean, that's going above and beyond for sure.
They awarded the man. He was so good.
Oh, woof.
And he was faking them the whole time. He was catfishing them. So as the Allies were beginning to plan what would become the D-Day landings at Normandy, or Operation Overlord, they also launched an elaborate umbrella plan called Operation Bodyguard. The goal was to mislead the Germans as to where and when the Allies would launch their invasion of Western Europe. Under Bodyguard, there were several smaller campaigns, and the most ambitious was Operation Fortitude.
Okay.
Fortitude aimed to misdirect the Germans on the invasion of France, specifically to convince them that they were going to land somewhere other than Normandy.
Right.
They created fake regiments, fake radio chatter, including an entire fictitious first U.S. Army group supposedly led by General George Patton.
Okay, heard of him.
All to confuse the intelligence that the Germans were receiving. Because if there was all this information they were getting, and all of it seemed legit, they wouldn't know which was true, and
Right.
they might put their people somewhere else. And in fact, that is indeed what happened.
Well, and they just gave this guy the Iron Cross, so if he's involved, they're gonna trust the info.
He's pretty good. A pretty famous part of Bodyguard was Operation Mincemeat.
Oh, God.
In 1943, the British wanted to invade Sicily, which was going to be a key step in the European invasion.
Sure.
But Sicily was under Axis control,
Mm-hmm.
and they had heavy defenses on the island. So part of the plan for the invasion was to make the enemy believe that the British were going to invade the Balkans and not Sicily.
Yep.
They did this through the overarching Operation Barclay, consisting of fake troop movements and fake radio transmissions and more stuff. But Mincemeat was the most clever, because they took a recently deceased man and essentially turned him into a...
Mincemeat?
No, they didn't turn him into mincemeat.
God.
Turn him into pie. They turned him into a fictitious captain of the Royal Marines.
Oh.
In his possession, they put official communications referencing the Allied forces' planned invasion of Greece.
Oh.
The body was then released into the sea near Spain,
Oh, my God.
where it was found by fishermen, and the letters eventually made their way to German military intelligence. And it's not known exactly what happened because we weren't behind the scenes, right?
Sure.
But it appears that the ruse worked because German forces pulled back from Sicily to reinforce Greece. And when the real Allied invasion of Sicily happened in July of 1943, the defenses were far weaker than expected.
Amazing.
So the invasion was a success, and probably due in some part to mincemeat.
Yeah.
So these operations were successful in the landing at Normandy. Even after D-Day had begun, German forces held back their reinforcements from Normandy, still convinced that a larger invasion was coming elsewhere.
Oh, my God.
Which is too crazy. But yeah, all of that to say, deception worked.
Sure.
And that brings us to the Ghost Army.
Oh, right.
Under the command of Army Colonel Harry L. Reeder, the Ghost Army was a completely secret division. Not even their fellow soldiers knew about them, because if word spread, So if someone knew about them, then they start talking about them, and
Oh, yeah.
word would spread, and eventually somebody who wasn't supposed to find out would find out.
Loose lips sink ships.
Exactly. In fact, I was listening to an interview with, I think it was one of them. I think was a historian, and the other one was the daughter of someone who was in the Ghost Army.
Okay.
They're talking about just stories from that time, and one of them was, I don't exactly know how the guy ended up in this situation, but he was essentially found by a British troop, or maybe it was an American troop, but it was from the Allies. But he was in the Ghost Army, and he was not able to be identified properly.
Uh-oh.
Because he was in essentially a fake division.
Right.
So he had to really convince them that he was for real an American and not a Nazi pretending to be an American.
Right.
Because the Ghost Army was so secret that when he said, if he was to say I'm in the 23rd Headquarters Special Forces, they would have said, that doesn't exist.
Right.
Crazy. So their job was too important to be known about.
Sure. Been there.
And they weren't armed with guns, as I mentioned. They were armed with brushes and speakers and inflatables.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
They were artists, sound engineers, actors, and set designers. That's right, Sarah. It's the fucking liberal arts division. Their job was to impersonate entirely fake military divisions, to appear to the enemy as if they were tens of thousands of soldiers using visual, sonic, and radio deception.
That's crazy.
And yeah, I did say inflatables. Not bouncy houses.
Oh.
They had inflatable planes, jets, and tanks.
Oh my God.
Sounds silly, but from high above in the air, they looked pretty real.
I'm sure.
And paired with a cardboard kitchen with real smoke, fake barracks, fake radio signals, a loudspeaker emitting noises that you would hear coming from a big division of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be damn convincing.
That's crazy.
So in one of their most daring missions, it was Operation Verison, carried out in March 1945 near the Rhine River. The Ghost Army staged a full-scale illusion meant to fool the Germans into believing that the U.S. Ninth Army would cross at a different location than planned. This ruse would require the 23rd's full might, all 1,100 soldiers, to employ every trick in their book to pull off. They deployed 600 inflatable tanks and artillery. They lined roads with dummy vehicles and signs. Maps of speakers mounted on trucks played looping recordings of tank convoys, bulldozers,
my God,
bridge building equipment going off. They had flashes to imitate gunfire. They actually brought in some actual equipment that would be used for building bridges, because the plan was to make them think they were going to cross the Rhine River at that exact spot.
Gotcha.
Tens of thousands would be crossing.
It's just like 20 guys.
Well, it was actually a lot of people, but comparatively very small. And they were able to convince the Germans that this small group of people were tens of thousands preparing to build a bridge, exchanging guns. They weren't shooting anything. They had no guns.
That's so wild.
Well, they did have some guns.
I was going to say, you're going to at least give me a handgun and you're sending me in to do this. That's crazy.
They had some personal protection, but they were not armed to fight off what they were up against.
Sure.
To sell the lie further, the Ghost Army used radio deception teams who impersonated real Ninth Army operators, mimicking their radio fingerprints. You know, how they spoke, the call signs, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Men dressed up as military police set up blockades and rerouted traffic, stopping locals, even other American soldiers to make the operation seem authentic.
Whoa.
And all of this, as I said, misled German reconnaissance and intelligence into believing that the 1,000 men on the other side of the river were actually 2 divisions of 40,000 men.
Oh my God.
And this allowed the real army to pass with minimal resistance and casualties because all the defense had been moved down the river.
That's incredible.
This was the Ghost Army at their peak. 1,100 men impersonating 40,000.
Yeah, it doesn't really get much better than that, I don't think.
Pretty awesome. So the Ghost Army was estimated to have saved up to 30,000 lives over 20 successful deception missions between 1944 and 1945.
That is so wild. In 1 year.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's crazy.
Yes, it is.
Imagine going to school to paint like matte paintings for movies or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get called up and then you get drafted,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, instead of digging foxholes, we're going to have you go out there and just pretend. Just play pretend.
Sure.
Crazy.
I'd be great at that.
Now, all that's pretty crazy. And I feel like I say this all the time, but here's the crazy thing. For decades, nobody knew about the Ghost Army outside of those who were in it and commanded it, because it was top secret. Their operations were classified until 1996.
Whoa.
Yeah. So those soldiers who risked their lives using props and performances went unrecognized for half a century.
I'm sure a lot of them, well, maybe not a lot, but quite a few had died by then.
Sure.
So they would have been like in their 70s.
Yeah.
Dang.
Then in 2022,
Uh-oh.
they were finally awarded the Congressional Gold Medal.
Wow.
It's a little bit late,
A little bit, yeah.
but at least they got some acknowledgement finally.
Okay, I'm so sorry. How terrible that they had to give the awards to actual ghosts.
Oh
my God. Do you think that's why they waited?
Sarah, yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, that would explain it.
It's the only thing that makes sense. And there you have it.
Wow.
Kind of a short episode,
Wow.
but the Ghost Army.
You know what's so embarrassing?
What?
It's like, so for the first like few minutes of you like describing this, I was like, I know this from somewhere. Like it has to be a movie or like there must like a TV show or something about this. But then I remembered it was, I was thinking of a D&D campaign we were on many years ago.
Oh no.
Yeah, where one of our party members was like given this like special like enchanted pot of paint. Like Gray's character had.
Oh yeah.
The pot of paint, and they could like use it to paint doors and like all this, like it could only be used by a rogue for trickery.
Yeah.
And so it did finally click with me partway through the story that I was like, oh no, that was also a ghost army. It was completely made up in our imaginations.
Yes.
Yeah. Aww.
So there you have it, the Ghost Army of the of World War II. Not exactly the most exciting Ghost Army, but about as exciting as you can get
Sure.
in real life.
I honestly think that's way cooler than the Ghost Army from Return of the King.
They were really cool, though.
They were really cool. They weren't this cool.
No, they weren't.
This rules.
Exactly. Well, thank you for listening to us. It's been another rousing episode, and we hope that you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, make sure that you rate and review us on whatever platform you are listening to us currently. You can check us out on Threads and Instagram for more content. We are Fantastic HPod on both. We're also on YouTube you can just search for Fantastic History Podcast, and you're bound to find us. You can also shoot us an email at fantastichistorypod@gmail.com if you want to give us any feedback, suggestions, or tips. And that's all I got. I guess we will see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.